Hello everyone, it's Professor McAllister again. Now I want to show you some examples of the different types of passages you might see on the TEAS exam, as well as a look at the actual questions you might see. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back. This is Professor McAllister again. Yesterday we learned about the different types of passages. And I thought it might be helpful if I provided you examples so that I can show you too how to use the strategies, okay? So first, we're going to look at an expository passage. Do you remember that I said if you get a question like this, what type of passage is this? What I want you to do is to go up to the passage and as fast as you can, look for numbers. I've already highlighted them to show you, but there's plenty of numbers in this passage. There is no doubt in my mind that this is an expository passage. Okay? Let's look at another question we might have related to this passage. Where would this type of passage be found? Always, always. If it's expository, it's in the encyclopedia. You need to commit that to your memory, okay? One more question about expository passages. What is the purpose of this passage? If it's expository, the purpose is always to inform. Okay? Now I'm going to show you another type of an expository passage. First thing we're going to do, as always, is we're going to read the question first. What type of passage is this? Do you remember I said if you look up at the title and you see the word history in the title, and notice this passage about cotton candy does not have any numbers in it, but because it's a historical passage, it's telling us the history of the development of cotton candy, then we know it's expository. You just take one look at that word history and come down and you click it and you go, okay? Let's look at another question. Where would this type of passage be found? If it's expository, the answer is encyclopedia, okay? Keep going. You have 1 minute per question. Let's look at another question. What is the purpose of this passage? It's expository, so the purpose is always to inform. One thing I want to caution you about. You can determine the answer to this very first question so quickly by just looking at the title. Well, I have some students who will do that. They'll say, oh, it's history. Professor McAllister said it's expository. But maybe I should read it a little just to be sure. And then they'll read it. Please don't do that. You will run out of time and then you will fail the reading test. I thought it might be helpful if I provide you an image of a set of encyclopedias. You don't really see these very often anymore. When I was a young girl, this is what we used for reports. And doctors' offices have their medical library, and attorneys, of course, have their legal libraries. But most people don't have these readily accessible in the home anymore. So I thought it might be helpful. So this is a set of encyclopedias. They're alphabetized and they're numbered. And just remember, an encyclopedia contains factual information. And an encyclopedia is where you would find an expository passage. Hi, now let's look at a persuasive passage. Do you recall that I said if you're trying to identify a type of passage, and if you see words that indicate opinions, that would mean it is a persuasive passage. Look at this passage. You could read the first sentence of paragraph 1 and the first sentence of paragraph 2 and figure out the answer. Let's try that. You should be aware that I have observed your class on several occasions now. Did you see the should? we could actually stop right there and be able to determine that this is a persuasive passage. But let's just look at the second one just to be sure. As you know, it seems that you have all enjoyed our annual career workshops for the juniors and seniors. That word seems also indicates an opinion. It's kind of odd, but trust me, you'll want to remember that for the T's. So we found opinions. So we know the answer to this question, what type is the passage above? The answer is persuasive. And the purpose of persuasive is always to persuade. Now I want to show you an example of a narrative passage. Hopefully you'll remember that I said if a passage has a lot of personal pronouns, and I've highlighted them, I, my, his, he, is, himself. And this passage in particular, it has the feel of a personal story. Therefore, we know that this is a narrative passage. What type of passage is this? Narrative. Let's look at another question. What is the purpose of this passage? To entertain with a humorous story. Let me point out something here. It does not matter what it says after the words to entertain. This is all irrelevant. All you care is that it says to entertain. Okay? Good job. Now let me show you another example of a narrative passage. This passage here in particular is an excerpt from To Kill a Mockingbird, which happens to be my favorite book. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Do you remember I said if you have a passage that contains quotation marks and dialogue, as in here, hey yourself, said Jim pleasantly. I'm Charles Baker Harris, and I can read. So what? I said. They're having a conversation. If a passage contains a conversation in quotation marks, it will be a narrative passage. So let's try a question. What type of passage is this? Well, we look up, we see those quotation marks, we know it's narrative. And we're not reading that, by the way. We're just looking as fast as we can. What's the purpose of this passage? To entertain with a humorous childhood story. A narrative passage will always be to entertain. Hi, thanks for watching my video. If you found my video helpful, please indicate it by hitting the like button. You're also welcome to leave any questions or comments down below. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you'll receive notification of all my future videos. Thank you.